Good evening, everybody, and welcome. On behalf of all of us here at Yavneh, I thank you for joining us tonight at what has become our signature event, our annual Holocaust commemoration and production, and of course, everything that you see tonight has been prepared by the Yavneh Academy graduating class of 2023. I want to explain for a minute, for some of you, this may be your last time as a parent experiencing this. Of course, you're always invited back for ensuing years and to join us. It may be your last time as a parent here, and for some of you, it may be your first time. One of the elements that I'm so proud of is that the program has really evolved over the years. And I hope that many of you had the opportunity to visit the gallery in the back. There are so many opportunities now for your children, our students, to get involved. We have incredible students here. This is a very talented grade, from artists to playwrights to actors. The list goes on. And as the play continues to evolve, we now have so many additional components for our students. Of course, the writing of the script, preparing the artwork and the scenery, the curation of the Artifacts Museum, the documentary that we call Yavneh Connects, prepared under the direction of Mrs. Karen Horn, the VR element, developed together with Mr. Jason David and our tech team, stagehands, light, sound, and of course, the signature presentation tonight, the actual play prepared under the direction of Michaela Simon and Rabbi Burstein, and of course, the class of 2023. So there are so many ways that our children can learn, can demonstrate, and they can produce. Something that I've been thinking about myself over the days leading up to tonight actually takes us back about 80 years. Last night and today, we celebrated Rosh Chodesh Nisan. On Pesach Eve, Leil HaSeder, 80 years ago in 1943, we have what has become known as the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, perhaps the largest single revolt of the Jews during World War II, and one of the signature moments throughout the Shoah, and according to the museum in Washington, D.C., one of the most significant events in the entire history of the Jewish people. 80 years ago. And it's hard to believe and hard for us to imagine that here we are in what's a kind country to us, a Medina Shel Chesed, a wonderful free country that we live in, and yet at the same time, a very complicated and scary time. 80 years later, we're witnessing a resurgence of anti-Semitism in our own country and in our own tri-state area. And as adults, we understand that it's a complicated time. And as young adults, your children are not too young to understand that we're living in a complicated time. A time that includes threats against schools in Bergen County, threats against schools, threats against Jews walking in Manhattan wearing kippot. It's hard to imagine. Today on my newsreel, I saw a story on one of the Jewish websites. It talked about a story that happened 2 years ago. A young professional by the name of Joey Borgen, an accountant living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, wearing a yarmulke on his way to a rally in support of Israel, a rally in Times Square. An unbelievable, horrific, awful story. 2021, Times Square, Manhattan. Attacked, beaten, there's surveillance video, hit with crutches, kicked, sprayed with pepper spray, hospitalized. He went on record just recently that saying he still thinks about this event. He used to be an active basketball player. He's had surgery. He hasn't been back to playing basketball since. A young man walking in the streets of Manhattan just 2 years ago. Surprisingly, the individual who's caught on video doing this crime was given only a very lenient 6-month plea deal. It's hard to believe. So one of the beliefs we have in our school stems from that idea that those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. One of our goals, one of our objectives here is to give your children a sense of Jewish history. Not just about the Holocaust, of course, the vibrancy of Europe before the Holocaust, and with the big focus on the events of the Holocaust and the faith that ensued after the Holocaust. It's a key goal. It's a core goal. It's a goal we can never take for granted. And we know that in order to prepare our children for their future, they must study their past. However, there's much more to that. And for me tonight, I'm even going to be a little bit personal with your permission. It's not really your permission, I'm doing it anyway, but you know what I mean. Tonight, Beis Nisan, is a very significant day in my own family. It's the 15th yard site of my stepfather, the man who raised me and my brother, Yehuda Elazar ben Harav Yehoshua Falek. And he and his family were living in Czechoslovakia, and it was on the Seder nights that he and his family were taken from their homes. It was an incredible family, a committed family, 2 parents, 10 children. 10 children. He was the oldest, at the time 15 years old, and taken to Auschwitz. Unfortunately, his parents perished. 8 of his siblings, the youngest ones, were murdered, and only he and 1 sibling survived. And he came here to America to rebuild his life and also to rebuild Jewish life. He wasn't an educator, never had the chance to go to college, studied for a little bit in yeshiva, and then went out to make a living. And to me, what was most remarkable is the vision that he had. Together with a couple of other survivors, they founded a small shul in central New Jersey. And their vision was very clear. We're going to take the kids, and we're going to let them be the leaders. They're going to daven for us. They're going to lane for us. They're going to break their teeth on it. We had no idea what we were doing. They're going to give the Divrei Torah at Sudat Shlishit, and we're going to pass over all of what we know to these kids so they can go on to be the next link in the generation. And it's a remarkable legacy, and one that made a huge imprint on me and my brother and really motivated us to pursue a career in Jewish education. I think about him often, especially tonight when it's his 15th yard site. And to all of us, to us, and especially to our children, it is our turn to educate, to inspire, to give opportunities, and to motivate, to give our kids a sense of their history, to teach them to stand up against injustice wherever it may be, against any person, against any race, against any religion, to be proud Jews, and most importantly, to study Torah, as that is the only way that we can guarantee our Jewish survival. And here in Yavneh, the goals are exactly these 2 elements: to study the past and to inspire for the future. I hope that's what your children get out of our program. I hope it's what they get out of tonight. And I hope it's what they get out of their remarkable experience studying the Holocaust together with our Director of Holocaust Studies and their beloved Rebbe, Rabbi Shmuel Burstein. So I'd love to invite Rabbi Burstein to come up tonight, now to lead us in the memorial lighting of the candles, and then to say the 2 Kel Malei Rachamim that we say here at Yavneh Academy, and then, of course, to introduce tonight's signature event. Rabbi Burstein.
Good evening. We are so pleased to be returning to a dignified beginning of this program by inviting up people who will light a candle. And after the candles are lit, they'll be walked up by their children or grandchildren. After the candles are lit, we will say the Kel Malei Rachamim. The first candle will be lit by Mr. William Schimmel, and he is being accompanied by his grandson, Zachary. Mr. Schimmel himself is a survivor. He was a child at the time of the war. His family was actually initially from Austria. They had fled to Riga, Latvia, and they were evacuated, I would say Baruch Hashem. The family was evacuated by the Russians into Siberia, where life was very hellish. But they survived, and he came here to raise a family. Very few Latvian Jews survived the Holocaust. We invite Mrs. Susanna Shepper to light on behalf of Chana Penina Bas Aryeh Cohen. Mrs. Shepper herself her family is from Denmark. The story tonight is about the remarkable Danish rescue, and her family underwent the rescue experience that will be portrayed on stage. Accompanied by her son Avi, who was a graduate of this year's class. We invite Sarah Barber, who's coming up with her grandson, Alicia Friedman. She is lighting for grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins who perished in the war. And remarkably, Ellie's great-grandmother just passed away a few months ago at 102. She was one of the last survivors from Schindler's List. Mrs. Evelyn Rubin is lighting for Paula and Charles Capel. She's being accompanied by her grandson, Eitan Miller. Mrs. Toby Rosenberg, grandmother of the Lowe twins, accompanied by Zaki, is lighting for her parents, Razel and Sam Roth. Both Rebecca Schlagbaum and Meira Schlagbaum are walking up their grandfathers, Mr. David Rosenbaum and Mr. Matti Schlagbaum. The two gentlemen together are going to light on behalf of Shlomo Yechiel Kuzhavsky and Devorah Kuzhavsky, and Dina Chernikovsky and David Tzvi Chernikovsky. Finally, we are calling up Esther Jankelowitz, grandmother of Tzvi Jankelowitz, as well as Evelyn Hefter and Isidore Hefter, grandparents of Tzvi. And they are lighting in memory of the Hefter and Landau families who perished during the Shoah. The custom we've had here in Yavneh for many years is to memorialize a tiny community of Jews in Czechoslovakia that was called Vyshkov. Vyshkov had less than 80 Jews in the community, and nobody came home after the Holocaust. The only thing that was left of significant value from the community was the Sefer Torah. And Yavneh Academy was given the privilege to house the Sefer Torah, which is on display in particular for all our Talmidim and Talmidos on Yom HaShoah. And we were asked that when we say a Kel Maleh, which I will do briefly, we proceed by a Kel Maleh for this tiny community, and then we will say the general Kel Maleh for all the 6 million Kedoshim. It is my kavod now to ask all of you to please rise for the 2 Kel Malehs. El Molei Rachamim Sholchein Bameromim Hamtzei Menucha Nechono Al Kanfei HaShechino B'malos Kedoshim Utahorim Kizohar Haraki Amazhirim Es Nishmos HaKedoshim Min Vishkov Czechoslovakia Kedoshim yatahorim shehumsu v'shenergu v'shenishchatu v'shenisrefu v'nichniku al kiddush Hashem bavur shekulanu omdim po biad hazkoras nishmosehem Began Eden tehei menuchasam lachein ba'al rachamim Yastirein b'seiser k'nafov li'olamim v'yitzror b'tzor achayim es nishmosehem Adonai hu nachalosam v'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkavosehem v'nomar amen. Now on behalf of all the 6 million. El Molei Rachamim Sholchein Bameromim Hametzei Menucha Nechono Al Kanfei HaShechino B'malos Kedoshim Utehorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim Es nishmos acheinu b'nei Yisrael hakedoshim v'yatehorim shehumesu v'shenergo v'shenishchatu v'shenisrefu v'shenitbeu v'nikberu chayim v'shenechneku al kiddush Hashem al yedei atzorerim hagermonim v'yozreihem yimach shemam v'zichram ba'avor shekulanu dim po biad hazkoras nishmosehem Began Eden tehei menuchasam Lachein ba'al rachamim yastireim b'seiser k'nafov li'olamim v'yitzror b'tzoros hachayim es nishmosehem Adonai unachalosam v'yanduchu v'shalom al mishkavosehem v'nomar amen. Please be seated.
Good evening. A Jewish community was established in Denmark in 1657, with a large majority of Jews settling in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. Through the centuries, Jews attained greater freedom and acceptance. In 1814, the Jews were granted full Danish citizenship. A beautiful shul and a Jewish school for boys and girls was set up. Jews made their livelihoods in much the same way as German Jews did, who lived to the south of Denmark, in what later became the modern nation of Germany. Danes grew to accept Jews as fellow citizens. Danes were fiercely proud of their independence, of their king, and their culture. They resented any attempt to take away their independence. When Germany invaded Denmark on April 9, 1940, Danes were enraged. Germany wanted access to the Baltic Sea, particularly to reach Norway to the north of Denmark. The Danish government wisely decided the German military was too strong. Denmark surrendered on the same day they were invaded. Very few shots were even fired. In a very rare example of tolerance, Denmark was given full autonomy. Danish ministers and statesmen continued to govern their own country. Nazi officials learned quickly that Danes were, as a rule, against anti-Semitism.
Denmark is the only country in occupied Europe where the Germans did not force Jews to wear the yellow star. Word spread that King Christian X himself warned the Germans. If the Nazis dared pass such a law, he would wear the yellow star himself. This is one measure of the protection the Danish people offered Danish Jews. At the time, the Jews were less than 1% of the country's population. 6,000 Jews were born Danish citizens. Another 1,500 Jews were refugees from Germany and Eastern Europe. For 3 years, there was peace for Denmark's Jews. Jews were allowed to enter restaurants, public places, schools, and theaters. Danish citizens viewed Jews as fellow Danes.
Then, on August 29, 1943, the Danish government refused a Nazi order to institute a curfew. The government resigned in protest. In late 1943, the Germans prepared for the deportation of the Jews to a concentration camp in Czech territory named Theresienstadt. German SS leader Werner Best planned to arrest all Jews on the evening of Rosh Hashanah, while the Jews were celebrating the holiday. Christian friends, including total strangers, hid Jews in their homes, in hospitals, churches, and inside businesses. Over a period of a few weeks, 7,200 Jews were helped to escape to Sweden through the courageous help of their Danish neighbors. Jews were smuggled in ambulances up to small villages on the Danish coast. Anonymous rescuers showed up, came quietly to meet them and to transport them to safe houses.
Even in Denmark, there are some people who helped the Germans against the Jews. Over 470 Jews were caught, sent to the concentration camp, where 52 of them died. Over 120 Jews died in total during this terrible period of history. One of the most well-known of these occasions, on the night of October 6, 1943, 80 Jews hiding in the Galilea church attic were arrested and deported. Opposition to the Germans was so widespread, however, it cut across entire sections of the Danish non-Jewish population. Begun by the university student population, resistance to the Germans spread to all sectors of the nation. Ministers of Denmark's churches all across the country arranged to speak to their congregations on the very same Sunday. They told the men and women in church that they had an obligation as religious Christians to stand up against Nazism and help the country's endangered Jews. Over 3,000 Danish non-Jews were killed for fighting against the Germans. Danes left a powerful lesson to humanity about the power of collective loving kindness. Ladies and gentlemen, the Yavneh Academy class of 2023 proudly presents the Magnificent Danes.
You do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear.
That you will lead your life and practice your art.
That I will lead my life and practice my art.
In uprightness and honor.
In uprightness and honor.
You will hold yourself far aloof.
I will hold myself far aloof.
From wrong, from corruption, from the temptation of others to vice.
From wrong, from corruption, from the temptation of others to vice.
That whatsoever you shall see or hear.
That whatsoever I shall see or hear.
Of the lives of men, which is not fitting to be spoken.
Of the lives of men, which is not fitting to be spoken.
You will keep it inviolably secret.
I will keep it inviolably secret.
disgusting what's happening to the Jews in our neighboring countries. Now the Dutch Jews are being forced to wear those horrible yellow stars.
They did the same in Slovakia just weeks ago. The Jews have suffered more than anyone during this war.
At least here, our people have the courtesy and decency to treat our fellow Danes with respect.
You know, that actually reminds me. I've been meaning to tell you.
Tell me what?
Well, I've signed this petition.
Petition? What petition?
I'm one of 64 members of the medical staff at the hospital who signed. We've promised that we'll cooperate with the government as long as they guarantee no persecution of the Danish Jews.
You've signed it already?
Well, yes. We thought we couldn't move quickly enough to make sure there were measures in place.
And what if the Germans find out about this? You could be in serious danger.
Us? In danger? Our Jewish neighbors are the ones in danger. They're just as much Danish as we are, yet they live in fear.
Carl, I know that's true. I worry. I don't want anything to happen to you.
The Germans have pushed many Jews into ghettos, forced them to close their businesses. It's only because King Christian X has stood up for the Danish Jews that the same has not happened here. But the pressure from Germany gets worse each day.
I know. I feel it too. Just because it seems safe right now doesn't mean they won't need our help soon. Oh my God!
I heard this was the place to go if you need a doctor, and I think I need a doctor.
What happened?
I was shot by the Germans.
Where?
Stomach.
Doris, please help me with my kit. What did you do to get yourself shot?
Ow.
It'll hurt less if you distract yourself. So tell me, why were the Germans using you for target practice?
And who's this?
That's my wife.
I can speak for myself. I'm his wife, Doris.
Well, if you must know, I was trying to blow up a factory across town. I'm a saboteur, you see.
My God! Was anyone else hurt?
I was the lookout, but we were taken by surprise. I wanted to give the boys inside time to get away, so I tried to stall
And
them.
how did that work out for you?
I told the Germans that if they wanted to pass, they'd have to shoot me. So they did. Twice in the gut. Twice.
You somehow managed to get all the way here?
Well, you see, after they shot me, I fell on the floor and played dead. Once they'd rushed inside and were out of sight, I got to my feet, stumbled into the street, and hopped in a cab. Just as we were pulling away, I saw the other boys make their getaway.
I'm sure that the cab driver was pleased.
Doris, please call Knudsen.
Please don't call. They'll kill me or send me to prison.
Jorgen Knudsen is a trusted ally. He's one of the most kind-hearted people I know. He'll get you where you need to go.
He says he'll be right over.
Sir, help is on the way. Could you call the hospital and tell Nurse Jansen that there's someone coming in with... Tell her it's a perforated ulcer. She'll understand.
I'm not sure going to the hospital is the best idea. They might have my name on a list somewhere. They see my face. They know what I look like.
Don't worry about all that. We have protocols at Bispebjerg Hospital. We'll admit you under a false name, and once you're well enough, we'll transfer you to another hospital for your recovery. You won't be staying too long in any one place for them to find you. That'll be Knudsen. Quickly, let's go. Ola, it's good to see you. Do we have a class scheduled?
No, Dr. Koster, you haven't forgot a lesson. I have something. Non-academic to run by you, if you have a moment.
Of course, my boy. What can I do for you?
It's a bit sensitive, I'm afraid. I'm not sure if it's wise to talk about in mixed company.
I see. Nurse Jansen, you remember Ola Secker, one of our medical students here at the hospital? Mm-hmm. Head Nurse Jansen is one of my most trusted colleagues. Anything you need to ask me, you can say in front of her.
Very well. You know of my work with the student group?
I'm familiar, yes. One of the many youth who have taken it upon themselves to help protect our Jewish neighbors.
Through some carefully received intelligence, we've discovered 40 Jews hiding in the woods.
40? Where are they?
South of Copenhagen.
And how can we be of service to 40 Jews hiding out in the woods? Do they need supplies, medical treatment?
We need to take them by truck to the fishing boats on the coast. But there are going to be Germans nearby. It's all moving slower than we'd like. We were hoping that you would be willing to hide them in the hospital until the trucks arrive.
We can make room for them, but how exactly do you propose that we get them to the hospital to hide in the first place?
We'll stage a mock funeral. The Jews will dress in black and follow a hearse through Copenhagen all the way to the cemetery at the hospital.
That's too conspicuous. The cemetery is far too small.
We could keep them in the chapel just until the trucks arrive.
Brilliant! The funeral procession will make its way straight from the front gate to the chapel then. Expect 40 Jews first thing tomorrow morning.
"40 Jews, forced, tied in the woods like animals."
We must keep this quiet. Only those directly involved need to know what we've agreed to.
We've made the right choice. There's no turning back now.
Dr. Coster, we need your son operation in OR3.
I'll be right there. I'll discuss this further with you later.
And Miss Jensen, how can I help you?
I must speak to Dr. Coster. It's an emergency.
An emergency? What kind of emergency? Medical? Where are you? We can send...
No, nothing like that. It's William, the gatekeeper at the front entrance of the hospital.
The gatekeeper's on the phone for you. Says it's urgent.
William, this is Dr. Coster. What's so urgent?
Dr. Coster, I don't understand what's going on. A group of mourners just arrived for a funeral.
And what's so unusual about that?
Well, we never have funerals this early in the morning.
Sometimes we do.
In the 35 years I've been gatekeeper here, we've never had a funeral start at 8:30 in the morning.
I suppose you're right. These are quite unusual times, considering the German occupation.
I just don't understand why I wasn't informed. As the gatekeeper, I should have been told that there's going to be a funeral here this morning.
My sincerest apologies, William. I had an emergency operation last night, and it slipped my mind. I didn't mean to tell you about the 40 mourners that'll be arriving here this morning.
40? I wish there were 40. There are over 140.
Are you sure?
At the very least.
Over 140 people waiting at the front gate.
The more mourners, the more people we can help. I'll find Ole.
Let them through.
If you say so, sir.
Ola, how did this happen?
Some people told others. Friends, family, people who needed a safe place to go. I didn't know how many there would be until I got here. How could I say no?
That's incredibly generous of you, Ola. But how are we supposed to fit 140 people on a truck that barely fits 40? Can the driver do multiple trips?
No. It isn't safe for him to go back and forth. We'll have to choose 40 of the refugees at random and figure out how to transport the rest.
You choose 40 and get them to the chapel and ready for transport. I'll have Nurse Jensen gather the rest of the refugees and take them up to our cafeteria to eat and to rest. They look like they need it.
Mama, I'm scared. It's dark in there.
I know, darling, but there's nothing to be afraid of. They're taking us somewhere safe.
How much longer till the truck is loaded?
Dr. Gameltoff, what's wrong? The last few are getting on now.
There's a Gestapo car a few hundred yards away. They need to go.
Come along, Joseph. It's time to go.
Hurry up now. We need to move quickly.
Bye-bye!
They must have seen the little boy waving goodbye.
Maybe they didn't. They were still a ways down the road when it happened.
Then why are they still following the truck now?
That's it. I have to do this. I'll get in my car and I'll stage an accident. Crash into them lightly, just to distract the Germans long enough for the truck to get away. It's worth risking my life to save the lives of others.
They made it out all right?
We'll see you soon enough.
What do we do now?
Where do we go?
It's going to be fine.
Is the truck coming back for us?
This truck was only scheduled for the one transport, but we'll find a place to hide you all in the meantime.
The psychiatric ward on the 3rd floor has plenty of beds available.
Great thinking. Start bringing them up in small groups. Keep an eye out for any Gestapo vehicles driving by the hospital.
We're safe.
The truck turned left and the car turned right.
So the transfer was successful.
And a good thing too. I don't know if I had it in me to actually crash into them.
Dr. Coster, more mourners have arrived.
How many more?
At least 200.
Very well, William. Send them in. Where are we going to hide all these people? Is there any chance we will be able to hide some of these refugees in the nurses' quarters?
I'll speak to my staff and see if we can make it work. We have a problem. We have 200 refugees and nowhere to put them.
News has spread that this is a good place to await transport. We'll soon be flooded with people. And
I know. And it's going to be fine, Ola. Nurse Jansen is handling it. 200 more refugees showed up today.
where do you have room to hide them? This is a hospital, not a bunker.
We've all agreed to hide them in the nurses' quarters. We've got over 100 apartments and even more beds. The only thing left to do once they rest up here is get them to Sweden.
Cato, can you pass the potatoes?
I can't tell you how grateful we are for this warm meal, Mrs. Coster. Thank you for having us in your home.
With all the work you're all doing, the risks you're taking every single day, this is the least I can do for brave names like you.
Has your husband told you that we're now housing refugees in the nurses' quarters?
How many Jews?
130 apartments worth.
And the nurses, are they all right with housing the Jews?
The only complaints I've received from my nurses come when there aren't enough refugees to go around.
I've heard the nurses vying with each other to house those who need it.
You know, one of the older nurses used to throw a fit. Someone even laid a finger on her polished mahogany table. Now, she has a whole family, a father, mother, uncle, grandparents, and 4 small children sleeping in her apartment.
And where does she sleep?
The kitchen.
I've met most of these nurses before, and I have to say, I didn't know they had it in them.
The nurses are kind. Their job is to save people, and saving people is what they're doing.
And just how is the hospital paying for the transportation of all these people?
When resistance got word that Bispebjerg Hospital is housing Jews, donations started pouring in.
Anywhere from 50 cents to $50,000.
Where is all of that money coming from?
The heaviest contributors are the nurses themselves and the people in their lives.
But the more people who know, the more danger you're in.
This is a danger we must risk. We are very careful about who knows what we're doing. The truth is, the more of us that are working with the resistance, the more people we can save.
Your husband's priority is doing this all safely. For everyone involved, he's making a difference.
We all are.
Enough of this. Let's all try to stop worrying for one night and enjoy this delicious dinner.
My love, sit down. You're making us all more nervous.
Mogan should be here. He's never late. What if he got held up on his way here? Or what if his home got raided? Or...
Mogan, thank goodness you're here. My husband was about to lose his mind with worry.
I was not losing my mind. I was just...
I'm sorry if I caused any alarm. There was a Gestapo car on my street, and so I took the long way here. I went down alleyways, made turns I didn't have to. I didn't want them to follow me here, and I didn't want to risk calling to tell you I'd be late. More and more phones are being compromised by the Germans every day.
Not to worry, Mogans. We're glad you're here now. We didn't want to start without you. Please, catch your breath. Ole, would you like to start us off? How's the operation going at the hospital?
The nurses' apartments are filled to the brim, so I've made arrangements with our fishermen who are willing to transport refugees to Sweden. They all seem trustworthy, but you can never be too careful. Your organ has been heading up the transports to Bispebjerg.
We've been using the hospital's ambulances to get the Jews to the coast. They're inconspicuous, and if we turn on the sirens, no one questions the hurry we're in. I've stopped driving for emergencies altogether. Now I'm working full-time on transporting Jews.
We know the sacrifices you've made. We couldn't do this without you.
Well, I won't take all the credit. Captain Kissling here is an outstanding driver as well.
Oh, you flatter me. I'd also like to mention that with help from Mogans, me and the missus have been able to provide more hiding places to our neighbors.
We've been using the attic space of Mogan's bookstore, but if we're talking numbers, Bispebjerg Hospital is the most important refugee collection point.
Which means there's a lot of work to do. Luckily, we have help from virtually the entire medical staff. They are truly making a difference.
Because of their kindness, we've been mostly successful in our transportation efforts.
What do you mean by mostly successful?
Well, about a month or so ago, my ambulance was stopped by some German enforcers while I had a load of refugees inside. I was held captive for about a week.
Don't worry too much about old Jorgen here. He was put through a few rounds of torture, but they couldn't get a word out of him. And the second he was released, he jumped back into his work.
And of course, there's always a chance that will be interrupted when making the handoff of refugees. 140 Jews were set to sail to Sweden, and at the docks, they were intercepted by a group of German officers who were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Dr. Koster was with them and was able to think quickly enough to get everyone out of there before being caught.
Well, I'm glad no one was hurt.
That time, no one was hurt that time.
Their sacrifices haven't been in vain. Since Dr. Koster opened up the hospital as a meeting point, over 2,000 refugees have traveled to Sweden by way of Bispebjerg.
And there are many more that need our help.
Well then, we can't just sit around. What's next?
We're here to see your husband.
He's not in at the moment.
And when will he be back?
I don't know. What do you want here? This is not my husband's office. This is our private home. You have no right to come here without being invited.
Actually, we have every right to be here, and we intend to wait for your husband until he returns. You seem lovely, so I'm sure Tom will just fly. Now, would you get me some water?
Sorry, we're fresh out. They are medical students. They're taking a course in surgery from my husband.
Very good. That means your husband will be home soon. Make way for him with us.
Mrs. Costa, the door is open.
Another student of your husband's?
Why are you wearing those strange boots? Are you hiding something?
Papers, maybe? Take them off.
After him now!
Is everything okay?
Dr. Costa is in right now. He won't be home till much later.
I understand.
That's it, we're taking all of you away.
So after the call with your wife, what happened?
After I hung up the phone, I was shaken up. I wasn't even sure who had been shot. I know now that it was my dear friend, Cato Bachman, but I knew I couldn't go home. Not for a long time. I decided to go to the house of a friend of mine, Peter Hearing.
I know of him, of the Cherry Hearing Factory.
One and the same. He had me in the storm above his factory for 10 days. By then, I was able to get on a boat to Sweden. Once I arrived in Stockholm, I went to the British Embassy and offered my services there as a surgeon, and they accepted. They offered me a safe passage to London, where I continued my work.
I have so many friends with stories like your own. Do you know Dr. Stefan Lund? He worked at Commune Hospitalette and raised funds for refugees in his community.
I also have a family friend, Dr. Eric Hutzenfeld. Maybe you've heard of him, his involvement. He was a professor at Copenhagen Medical School, and he found many ways to support the Jews.
I've heard his story. Even his students led a strike against the persecution of the Jews. It's so strange, all of this being discussed in the open. I'm so used to having to hide this part of my life until I knew I was in company that could be trusted.
I'm sure you all feel that in some way. You all made such incredible impacts in your own circles, which is why I feel like I need to write this book. Your stories need to be told. The world needs to know what you did to save the Jews.
We certainly didn't do all the things we did to be recognized. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And now, seeing what was going on in other parts of Europe, I know we made the right decision, the only decision.
Dr. Koster, you were one of the first doctors on the scene after the liberation of Bergen-Belsen. What impact did that have on you after the things you did to save the Jews of Denmark?
I was horrified that such crimes had ever been committed. It was seeing those atrocities that made me know for sure that we made the right choice defying the Germans.
Mr. Staffout, what was going through your head when you suddenly decided to help an overwhelming number of Jews escape Denmark?
I never think of a man as a Jew or not. It makes no difference to me. A good man is a good man, and these good men needed my help. It was the only reasonable thing to do.
Mogans is right. We owe everything to the Jews. They are doctors, small business owners, lawyers, and they have given to us nothing but spiritual and material growth. Not only that, but the opportunity to help the Jews gave my life and the lives of many others meaning. It is commonly thought that the Jews owe the Danes everything for saving them, but it is only natural for a brother to help his sister.
I can't tell you why I did what I did. Of course I helped them, but I can't tell you why. It was spontaneous.
In every country under Nazi control, there were individual acts of kindness done by ordinary people. But it was only in Denmark. Almost everyone, from the king to the fisherman, took an active role in rescuing the Jews. It was only in Denmark where 98.2% of the Jews were left alive. And you call that spontaneity?
Yes, all over the country. It was spontaneous.
As a matter of principle, it was our responsibility and duty to help the Jews. Their suffering was a call to action.
I just have one more thing to say about this, Mr. Flender. Something I think you need to understand when you write your book.
And what's that, Dr. Koster?
You ask us why we did what we did. Why did the Danes, of all of the people in the world, behave so bravely and courageously?
Yes, I'm just trying to understand it all and help the world understand it too.
The truth is, there is no one answer. There are many answers, and we will never know all of them.
Mrs. Doris Koster was arrested by the Germans and interrogated for weeks before they finally released her. She did not see her husband, Dr. Karl Koster, until 3 years later. British troops liberated Denmark on May 5, 1945. Speaking after the war, Dr. Koster said, "The entire medical profession stood together as a single unit in opposition to anti-Semitism. We knew that the Germans could not arrest all the doctors. The hospital where Dr. Koster was chief medical officer took in over 2,000 Jews over a period of weeks in October, assisting their escape to Sweden. Dr. Koster made his way to London, where he helped the British in their anti-German war effort. Dr. Koster helped, as a physician, liberate Bergen-Belsen concentration camp together with the British Army. Seeing the terrible sights there only made it clear to him that he had done the right thing to help Jews escape. Mogen Staffeld returned to his bookshop within days of British entry into Copenhagen. He fled to Sweden after the Germans began searching for him for his work in rescuing hundreds of Danish Jews."
Jorgen Knudsen, one of Dr. Koster's medical students, took part in resistance work, even after he'd assisted Jewish flight from Denmark. He assisted saboteurs to escape to Sweden. He later joined them and remained in Sweden until it was safe to return. The large majority of Denmark's police refused to help the Germans in their work. Thousands of police were tricked by the Germans into showing up to a fake air raid. Half were rounded up to be sent to concentration camps. Half of those escaped. Over 600 Danish police died in concentration camps. When the war ended, it was revealed that over 3,200 non-Jewish Danish men and women were killed by the Germans in punishment for their resistance. A cemetery outside Copenhagen, where many lie and rest, bears a sign that says, quoting the Chumash, "The ground you are standing on is holy ground, Adma Kodesh."
More than 95% of Denmark's Jews were rescued and sent to Sweden. Over 470 other Jews from Denmark were sent to the Theresienstadt ghetto and concentration camp in the former Czechoslovakia. Approximately 120 Jews died there or during the roundup period. When Danish Jews returned home, they discovered that the tables they had set for Rosh Hashanah before going into hiding were left exactly the way they had been set up. The Danish underground guarded and protected Jewish homes and apartments while the Jews were in Sweden. The story of what happened to more than 400 surviving Jews in Theresienstadt defies the imagination. In April of 1945, Allied troops liberated one concentration camp after another. Swedish diplomat Folke Bernadotte made an arrangement with the vicious leader of the SS, Himmler, to allow all Danish Jews in Theresienstadt to leave to freedom, but they were only allowed to get off their buses in Sweden. They gave their fellow Jews who were not from Denmark food packages. These had been sent to them from the Danish Red Cross.
Swedish buses arrived, painted with the sign of the Red Cross. The Jews on the buses were warned to be quiet and clean. When the buses carrying the Jews left German territory, and entered villages and towns throughout Denmark, they could not believe what their eyes beheld. In every town, along every road, thousands of Danish citizens who had heard about the buses carrying Jews lined the roads waving flags and bouquets of flowers. Danes cheered and called out, "Velkommen til Danmark," welcome back, welcome to Denmark. When buses reached Copenhagen, hundreds of thousands of Danish men and women were waving flags and cheering loudly. Their celebration of kindness was actually thunderous.
Mrs. Scylla Cohen, one of the returning Jews, asked her husband, "Is this a holiday? Why all the crowds?" Her husband explained, "Yes, it is a holiday, a very special holiday for us." Crowds came up to the buses. They surrounded them, bringing flowers to the Jews. Joyous Danes passed candy and chocolates through the bus windows. German troops and SS were still in Denmark, and the Nazis were furious. They could not bear to see such a tumultuous welcome of Jews. The Germans shouted through loudspeakers, "If this does not stop immediately, we will return these people to the concentration camp." The noise of cheering stopped, but the Danes remained standing in the streets, in the squares, waving their flags with broad smiles. The Jews were then sent safely to Sweden. The magnificent Danes proved to the world an important and time-honored Torah lesson. Shomer achi anochi, I am and must be my brother's keeper. Al ta'amod al dam re'acha. I may not stand by and do nothing. As my fellow man, my fellow Jew is in terrible danger.
From early on in our education, Yavneh Academy students are taught the importance of our history. As younger students, we remember looking forward to being in the Holocaust production. We had heard about the script writing, the artwork, managing the stage, and presenting to our classmates, teachers, friends, and family. However, we truly did not understand this experience until we lived the process. Tonight's production honors the magnificent Danes. The citizens of Denmark did not sit idly while the Nazis were moving through Europe. Rather, they banded together to ensure the safe escape of the Danish Jewish population. Many of us are grandchildren and great-grandchildren of survivors. We are privileged to share this story with you. As with any great accomplishment, the production you have just seen would not have been possible without the help and support of numerous people, to whom many thanks are due. On behalf of the Yavneh Academy graduating class of 2023, we are honored to share our gratitude.
We would like to express our appreciation to our principal, Rabbi Jonathan Knapp. Your unwavering devotion to ensuring that the Shoah is remembered speaks to us of your values, your belief in man, and most important, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who as our principal, you have kept open this tradition for us and for the victims of the Holocaust as a whole. The play is not only a memorial and a commemoration, but also a senior project for us, one which brings us together, shows us talents we did not know we had, and allows us to finish our time at Yavneh with impactful memories. Rabbi Knapp, thank you for making tonight a reality.
Thank you, Mrs. Rubin, for always wanting us to be our personal best. You know us and appreciate us for who we are. In addition, you seek ways to help us grow. We are more than an alphabetical list, and our curriculum is much more than our core subjects. Rather, you stress values and compassion. We know tonight is very important to you. As a child of survivors, you have shared your commitment to keeping the lessons of the Shoah alive. You have shared that tonight's presentation is the legacy we leave to Yavneh Academy. We have hoped we made you proud.
There's a great deal which takes place behind the scenes. We would like to thank Mr. Joseph Savetsky and his team for turning our middle school gym into a theater. Mr. Savetsky listened to all of our needs and transformed the room we are sitting in. Mr. Savetsky, you allowed us to pay tribute with dignity. Thank you to Mrs. Rachel Feldman, our executive director. Wilson Medina, Lenny Snow, and Emmanuel Rosario for all of your hard work. Chairs, tables, supplies. You made sure we had it all.
Our multimedia gallery is a dream come true. Our artwork, our artifacts, our Yavneh Connects, and our virtual reality experiences are all meant to educate our Yavneh community of the Shoah. Our gallery will remain open after this evening's presentations. Thank you to Mr. Jason David and Mr. Matthew Filer for guiding us through our virtual reality programs. We completed a great deal of research to celebrate the magnificent Danes. Mrs. Karen Horn, your never-ending patience with us was a true gift. You taught us how to recreate the lives of many who perished in the Shoah. Yavneh Connects pays tribute to so many. We hope you have enjoyed our artwork and artifacts. These were ways for us to memorialize the many before us.
Our stage sets were the embodiment of Miss Simon and Mrs. Gazam's talents. Together you crafted the scenes of our play. Mrs. Gazam, you taught us how to blend colors and create impact with proportion. With you guiding us, we are able to recreate the doctor's world. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you to Mrs. Leah Frank and Mrs. Jenny Harwitz for finding just the right costumes for us. You went through the many boxes and ensured that our appearance this evening matched the roles we were honored to present. We will definitely hang up our costumes at the end of the evening. The many props that we used during our performances were coordinated by Dr. Susanna Shepper and Mrs. Renee Zimblist. Rabbi Burstein called, and you were ready with suitcases, wine chests, chairs, pans and bottles, and even a kitchen table. You ensured that our play would have the authenticity required, and you did it with a smile. Thank you to Mrs. Dina Heist and her crew for doing our makeup and hair. I don't know how you got us all to agree to being made up, but you did it.
Michaela, as we look forward to graduation, we will be reflecting on the many years and experiences we have had here at Yavneh Academy. Our performance of the Magnificent Danes will live on with us because of you. We had spent years looking forward to our graduation presentation. And then the work began. You met with a group of inexperienced 8th graders to craft a script which would have meaning. You read our lines with us, practiced, and ensured that our pronunciation, diction, and projection were on mark. We hope as you look at us tonight, you know that you have affected us. Your dedication to teaching the Shoah to us will be remembered long after graduation. You made us believe in ourselves. You trusted us to handle the most sensitive and meaningful of topics with dignity. Thank you for being part of our world. Your teachings will stay with us in years to come as we continue to give voice to many who cannot. We hope we have made you proud. Thank you for being an integral part of Yavneh Academy's 8th grade experience. Michaela, please come join us, your graduating class of 2023.
On behalf of the entire graduating class, we would like to thank Rabbi Burstein for spearheading this incredible production and for all of the time, effort, and love that he invested to make this happen. Our 8th grade class was privileged to learn about the Holocaust with someone as knowledgeable as Rabbi Burstein. He has been a teacher and scholar of Holocaust studies for over 20 years and weaves practical lessons and hashkafa into the history that he teaches us. Rabbi Burstein teaches in a way that makes everyone engaged, from the poster boards displaying heroes of the Holocaust to the endless books in his library. Rabbi Burstein makes the story come alive. We come to class every day, excited and eager to learn because we know that something special is in store. Even beyond this play, the way that he cares for us every day has left such a positive impact on us all. We remember how you introduced this year's play. You were proud that we would be focusing on the Danish community who protected their Jewish citizens. You wanted us to experience that good can triumph over evil. It is my pleasure to now call up Rabbi Burstein to join the class of 2023 on stage.
Guys, you were terrific. You gave honor to a topic and a story that should always be remembered. You were great, and you should be very proud of yourself.
And on Michaela's direction, we present to you, for one more bell, the Yavneh Academy class of 2023. Let's hear it for them. Weren't they great? Thank you. Students, you have the day off tomorrow. Please hang up your costumes. There will be a minyan for Mariv outside in about 10 minutes. A left and a left. Outside a minyan for Mariv. And the gallery is open in the back. The gallery is open in the back. That's called the mosh pit.